Are you ready to listen to my dad Joe and Uncle Justin talk about sports? Now on with the show!
The Joe Mays and J-Raff Show is brought to you by Mays Sandwich Shop, which have been serving the greater West Lawn area delicious food for over 70 years. You are listening to the Joe Mays and J-Raff Show.
Boring.
A weekly podcast about sports since 2011.
Don't you ever get tired of being wrong all the time?
With a focus on football.
Kansas City 31, San Francisco 20. Mahomes takes the snap. He is just going to throw it long for Demarcus Robinson. It is going to use up all the time. The game is over, and the Chiefs' kingdom has firmly planted its flag on top of football's highest summit. The Kansas City Chiefs are champions of Super Bowl 54.
Now, here are your hosts, Joe Mays and Justin Raffoff. Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to the Joe Mays and J-Raff Show. I'm one of your hosts, Joe Mays, and sitting next to me, my co-host, Justin Raffoff.
Yeah, it's good to be back. We're getting in a bit of a rhythm here, kind of crazy.
Yeah, we generally take the late winter, early spring, and just kind of relax, recharge our batteries, focus on other things. But because we dedicated so much time late summer and throughout early fall on local high school football, we'll talk about the Wilson Bulldogs team, I felt like we should kind of press on and do some of our regular shows. And we filled that out through November, December, January, February with football, more football. And that's kind of what everyone expects from this show, to be honest. But we do like a lot of other things around the sports world and things not related to sports, which we spent a lot of time last spring and summer, taking a tangent and speaking on pop culture and television and entertainment and things like that. And we might do the one or two of those again as we approach what we call the start of football season, which usually happens in May. Yeah. So we have about 2 months until that. But in the meantime, we do want to talk about a few things non-American football related and focus on the other three major sports in this country, being basketball, professional basketball in the NBA, baseball, Major League Baseball, and hockey. So I'm going to throw this one up to you first. Do we want to break the mold or break what I expected and actually talk a little football first, or should we save that little tidbit for the end? And if you want to save that for the end, do you want to do, which of the other three sports leagues do you want to do first? So this is all on you. You get to decide.
Let's do baseball first.
All right, so we're going to start with baseball. We're going to do our little bit of football at the end, and it's not so much on the field product. It's something off the field, but it came to light just a few hours ago, and it's something that interests me. And Justin actually sent me another thing about it before the show started. So we are going to talk about the leak of the new Los Angeles Rams logo, and discuss it just so briefly right before we end the show. So the rest of the time will be spent on baseball, basketball, and hockey, talking primarily the Philadelphia teams, but we'll go a little bit broader for a few of those.
Yeah.
So baseball was your first choice. Phillies obviously are the main talking point for us here, and it's less than 3 weeks until opening day, right?
I think opening day
isn't it like March 26th or something?
Yeah,
like
something like that. The Phillies home opener isn't until
it's
like
later.
The first or second, something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it is pretty interesting. We're closing in on that. It's pretty wild. The Phillies are having a really good spring training.
They are having a very now they got shut out today.
Right, they were, but again, you can't. And honestly, you can apply this to the Major League Baseball regular season. You can't live and die every day, with the result.
Right, you're not going to go 162-0.
Right. You can't even do that in the NBA or in the NHL, where it's half that.
It's literally happened once in regular season-wise, twice in pro football.
Right,
so.
which is, a quarter of that, so we're talking a little bit, but
Yeah.
I think they might have the best or close to the best record of the Grapefruit League teams. These are the teams that train in Florida in the spring. And when you look at it, things are going well right now. Bryce Harper looks really good.
Yeah, I saw. Did you see that?
Stole bases on back-to-back pitches yesterday. Is hitting home runs, hitting for power, hitting opposite field. It's amazing what happens when you can get in at the beginning. And look, I'm not begrudging the guy. It was a complicated deal, last year when he's working it out, trying to figure out where he's going to be for the next 10 years.
The rest of his career, essentially.
Right.
Well, but all in all, he had a really good year last year.
He did.
He had a really good year last year.
The team didn't really hold up the bargain, but he was above his averages in virtually everything.
The best part of that was when it was clutch time, he was at his best.
Yeah.
Which is the opposite of what we've been saying from the Phillies' big guns over the better part of the last decade. Now, I know the first few years of the last decade were still part of that heyday, but I mean, really, Bryce Harper was not the reason the Phillies struggled last year.
No, it went downhill on the road trip where McCutchen tore his ACL.
Yeah, that was the beginning of the end.
First of all, they didn't play well at the Giants, I think, to start that road trip. And then in San Diego, it just continued to go south. And that was early June, I believe, or maybe late May, but right around then. But they had been doing fairly well up until that point. But it's not just Harper. Some of the other guys are looking really good. Some of the young guys that we started to see last year a little bit more appear to be taking the next step and be getting better. There's talk of some of the young guys that they're I think they're going to start at AAA, but they're making it hard on the Phillies to put them at AAA.
Yeah.
Those are good problems to have. Those are good problems. And then this was a key. And Velasquez didn't have a good start today. But there's talk of they don't know who the fifth starter is, not because of injuries or lack of it.
Because they've all been pitching well.
They've got guys competing for the starting rotation.
Right. And entering the
competition breeds success in professional sports. And when you've got guys who have to compete for a starting spot, you're set up to be successful. And I know in the big picture, every team all the time is competing, but it sure felt like last year that the Phillies were filling a lot of roster spots by default.
Yeah. Who should step up? Who should it be this time?
And we'll see. And I know the GM Matt Klentak took a lot of heat last year for not going out and getting guys and things like that. He signed 3 of the top relievers in the offseason going into last year, and they pitched a combined 27. They could pitch a combined 27 innings, and then we're out for the year.
One of them may not even pitch this year.
Right. So that's not on the GM necessarily. He went out and got the guys, and then they couldn't play. So, so if you can avoid things like that, hopefully you can build momentum and keep going.
Yeah. Now, obviously, spring training means nothing, and we're gonna say that over and over and over again. But the Phillies are 11-5, and that includes today's shutout loss, 9-0. They lost. They've scored 103 runs, which is tied for the most in the Grapefruit League. Their pitching has been average, I'd say. Not great. It's the only reason that their differential isn't higher. But again, they gave up 9 runs and didn't score any today.
And especially in the first half of spring training, it gets really weird because you'll have guys that only pitch 2 or 3 innings, and then they pull them, and they're working on stuff.
I was going to say, a lot of the pitchers are trying pitches that they don't use a lot or maybe are trying to add to the repertoire. Right. So it's not exactly apples to oranges. Again, spring training doesn't necessarily mean anything. No. But to see the offense in a rhythm, I think, is a good thing because you can still be going up against pitchers that are trying things and not be hitting. I'd rather see you hitting against stuff maybe you know what's coming or he's trying something. You still have to hit it, you still have to make contact, and they're doing that, thankfully. But yeah, I saw a tweet from a baseball writer or blogger that Bryce Harper had played in 6 of the Phillies' 16 games and led the team in 4 or 5 of the major categories. Yeah. And he only played in close to a third of the games.
Right.
So is that good? I mean, it's good for Bryce, obviously. Right. But it'll be interesting. There definitely changes from opening day last year. Right. But in terms of in the long run, it's similar to the team from last year.
It is.
Because they don't have Odubel, isn't going to be in center field. They don't have Cesar. They don't have Michael. Those are 3 opening day starters that are all gone.
Right.
But hopefully, I think the biggest thing that was the only negative the first 2.5, 3 months of the seasons, I think, was Aaron Nola not being the Aaron Nola of 2018.
And then when the team went south, Aaron Nola got great.
Aaron Nola became the star again. So if we can get Aaron Nola from 2018 back to maybe go with a slightly better offense and a better bullpen, I think
Jake Arrieta was able to get healthy because he didn't really get it going last year. Towards the end of the year, they shut him down a little bit because he had some health issues. He's not going to be your top guy, but he can certainly maybe be your third guy. Something like that. You just look at it. I think they're in a spot where they can be better than last year. And for as poor as it was at times last year, I think a lot of that was just it snowballed out of control.
Right.
So.
But you have the best all-around catcher in baseball is back. Hopefully they can sign him to a long-term contract.
I think they will.
JT Realmuto, he's been the best catcher in baseball for at least 2 or 3 years now, and I'm glad to see him in Philadelphia. I love that he's wearing number 10. Andrew Knapp will most likely, I think, be the backup again. It's nice that that MLB has extended or expanded the bench to 26 players. That'll help an extra, you would think for a lot of teams an extra bat, but some could choose to add keep an extra pitcher. But I think it's gonna for Philadelphia. I think it might be another bench guy, not an additional pitcher. But so how do you think the infield's going to align this year? What does your gut say that are going to be your 4 guys? Now, we know Hoskins is at first, so that's not a mystery.
So I'm going to go Hoskins at first. I'm going to go Kingery at second.
Okay.
Gregorius at short, and Segura at third.
Yeah, that's exactly what I think they're going to do, and I think that's what they want to do. I do not know.
There might be some growing pains there, but I think that's their best. I think that's your best option.
Right. Well, I think the only question there.
You see Scott Kingery?
No.
He looks jacked.
Does he?
Oh my goodness.
Good.
Yes.
Well, I made that bet and got the Kingery jersey for me and my daughter 2 years ago when they signed him to a huge contract. And the first year was a little rough. 2018, I was like, oh man, was this a good decision? Both me buying jerseys and also the Phillies investing in it. But then last year, he was the most consistent offensive player all year round.
I think he's going to have a really good year. I think Didi Gregorius is a good
Oh yeah, I love that signing. 1 year deal. What do you have to lose?
Exactly. And he's got a lot to prove. You know, yeah.
So we know Harper's going to be in right. McCutchen will eventually be in left, but he's expected to start on a short-term disabled list, or maybe they won't even put him on the disabled list if it'll just be a few days. But he will not be starting on opening day.
My guess is it'll probably be closer to May till we see him or so.
Do you think Jay Bruce stays in left? Do you think they rotate him with Quinn or Williams?
So
is Hazley going to start in center? What do you feel about the outfield?
So I want to see Hazley in center.
So do I. That's what I want.
If possible.
That's what I want.
I want Hazley to be in center. I think, and this is a little crazy, but I think if you can, it's really tough because McCutchen I want in left, but like you said, who knows if that will happen. I'm intrigued by the idea of Roman Quinn in left just because you put him in left and Hazley in center, nothing should hit the ground. Nick Williams, I just saw a thing the other day that he's kind of the forgotten guy right now.
Has been for at least the last year.
It'll be interesting. When I say change of scenery, I'm talking specifically about management. The change in management may be good for Nick Williams. I kind of view Joe Girardi as a calming presence. A guy who's proven that he can get it done, and I feel like players like Joe Girardi, and I just feel like in terms of baseball, where so much of it is managing the players through a long, grinding season, my grandfather used to say this all the time. Baseball is the only sport where being successful 30% of the time probably means you're making the Hall of Fame. You know, imagine if Tom Brady. I know it's not the same, but he's like, imagine if Tom Brady completed 30% of his passes, or it's absurd to think about. Like if you double that, if you're not above 60, people are on your case in football now. You know what I mean? So baseball's it takes a different mindset, and I think Joe Girardi is a great hire to help the young guys on the Phillies roster with that mindset of you're not necessarily the star overnight. So I'm excited to see how it kind of plays out. I think Nick Williams may play a big role, especially early in the season. I'm not sure he's the everyday left fielder, but I think he's going to get his shot again this year, and it's probably his last shot in Philly with the big leagues to kind of prove that you belong. I think he's certainly capable, but another one, like I said, I'd love to see Roman Quinn out there just because he can cover so much ground. But he can't stay healthy. No. I'd love him to stay healthy because, man, if you can get him in there, it changes the dynamic a little bit.
Well, he can hit for power. He can hit for contact. He's quick. He can
Right.
be your leadoff guy with
Right.
McCutchen.
If you have
out.
Right, but I'm just you look at the speed. If you've got him and Hazley is good speed. Harper's has good
doing
speed.
really well.
Kingery's got really good speed. You become a really fast team. It would be nice to see that. But
do you know?
I feel like Roman Quinn. The thing with Roman Quinn and Williams to a bit, they give you some versatility. Like Roman Quinn, he can play center.
Right.
So
Yes.
if other guys aren't able to play center, they can play left.
Do you know, is Didi a base stealer? I don't know much
don't
about
really
him
know.
on the
I
base
don't
path.
know.
So, well, okay. We'll whip around here because my dad texted a few things. He says, how many wins will the new manager get us over last year? So before we answer that, what's your opinion? You touched on it a little bit. What was your opinion of the hiring of Joe Girardi?
I like it.
Was he your number one choice in Philly?
Probably not.
Who else would you have considered a top choice? I only had two, and Girardi was one of them. So
yeah. He was definitely on the short list for me. To be honest, one of the guys I had thought about, and this was kind of, I don't know that it would have been a good hire. It was just more like it intrigued me. I think Girardi was a better hire. I would have been intrigued by Madden, going and get Joe Madden. Now, I know that was kind of he already had it lined. He knew he was done in Chicago and kind of had it lined up.
Yeah, I mean, he's had success with lesser payroll in
So,
Tampa, and then
some
he got
of
him over
some
the
of
hump
the
in
intrigue
Chicago,
there
but
to me was he's from Hazleton. It's
sort of
it would be an
homecoming type.
intriguing. I feel like he's kind of a mix between Girardi and Kapler. He's weird like Kapler, but he is a baseball lifer like Girardi. It's kind of interesting.
I think Girardi was the safer choice of
100%,
the ones that were out there.
100%.
And I don't necessarily mean that in a negative.
No.
Because my other option, and I think this had the opportunity to hit big, but also could have gone down in flames, was Buck Showalter.
So Buck Showalter is also on my list too, because that's another thing. Again, you want to talk about baseball lifer, a guy that could get it done, and it could be the home run, or it could be a strikeout. The thing is, I feel like it's more of a roll of the dice. I feel like Girardi's not going to necessarily. The worst case scenario with Girardi is I feel like it's not working, it's not a great fit, they get someone else. The worst case with Showalter is you're going to blow up the team because they're winning 60 games,
But
because if it's a bad fit.
Him getting
Absolutely.
enough out of them that they're winning 95.
Absolutely. 100%. Yeah. One that I was intrigued with would be Sosha, who was with the Angels, a few years
for
ago.
a long time.
I really liked the Angels at the time. Again,
he could have brought Trout with him.
I kind of view him like Girardi, former catcher, just
well,
one of
catchers
those
are
things.
clearly the most important people on the baseball
Absolutely,
team.
they're the smartest players on the field. So
it's good we're on the same page.
Yeah.
So what do you think? So 2 years ago, 2 years under Kapler, and they went a grand total of was it 161 and 163, I think.
Yeah.
So they went 80 and 82 2 years ago, which was a huge surprise.
Right.
Like, there was time 2 years ago where, like, oh my, the Phillies could do this with nobody, and then they crashed and burned.
Right.
You bring in Harper, you only get 1 win improvement. Now, again, we said that is not on Bryce. There's so many other factors there, including injuries and suspect coaching and lack of pitching, and sometimes too many other offensive players going hot and cold. So that's not a Harper issue, and it's not just a Kapler issue either.
No.
But it was just last year was a lost year, unfortunately.
Right.
With the additions of a few key guys in the field and in on the mound, plus Girardi, are they better than 81 and 81 this year? How much better?
I'm gonna slot them for 88 wins.
Okay, it's a 7-game improvement.
Right, and I think they'll
Is that
be
a wild
pushing.
card?
I think they'll be pushing for 90 wins, and I think they're gonna be in the wild card hunt.
1 or 2.
I'm gonna say both. I think they'll end up in the second wild card.
Okay. I think.
So, like, I'm saying 88. I think they'll be in the race, so I think they will get enough wins to get that second wild card. So if that means 90, I think they'll get to 90. But if I have to peg a number, I'm going to go with 88.
All right. So 88 and what would that be? 64? No, that's not right. 88 and 74.
Yeah.
Right, 88 and 74. Okay, so 14 games above 500. I'm trying to remember what it took last year for the wild card teams. I'm trying to pull that up. If it lets me do that, it's not going to let me do that. So it was 96 and 97 in the American League to get into the playoffs. That's as the wild cards. And in the National League last year, it was 93 and 89.
Right.
So, yeah, you're talking very high 80s, 88, 89, or low 90s, depending on what the rest of the leagues do. Now, the unfortunate thing for the Phillies is they play in maybe not the best division, but at least the one that is going to be hotly contested.
Yeah.
They expect all four of the 5 teams to be in contention for the division title, and they expect the Marlins to be better.
Right.
Which may not be a great thing for Philly because they struggled against the Marlins last year, and they only won 57 games.
Right. I look at it. The Marlins could easily be 10 games better this year and still be a 67-win team. And I think that's well within the realm of possibility. I could see them pushing 70 wins,
Now, Nationals were wild card 1 last year, and we all know what happens. They got red hot in the postseason, ended up winning the World Series. They were 93 and 69 in the NL East, 4 games back of the Braves, who went 97 and 65. The Mets finished 5 games in front of the Phillies at 86 and 76. The Phillies at 500, 81 and 81. So a 7-game bump this year would place the Phillies on the outside looking in last year with 88 wins. They would not have made the playoffs. I think I'm going to say, as much as I want to say, they're going to be pushing 90, I don't know that I can quite commit to that, which is funny because 2 years ago, I nailed their record when people thought it would be crazy. I said 80 and 82 the day of or the day before opening day in 2018, and I responded to, I think it's 2008 Phils on Twitter, because he's the one that did the poll, and he's got thousands of followers because he tweets out the 2008 season game by game every single year. And he asked, and I was like 80 and 82, and I got tagged by him in October of 2018. And I looked at it, it was like only 2 people got the Phillies record correct at the beginning of the year, and I was one of them. I was like, oh man, I forgot about that. Wow, I was super optimistic about the 2018 Phillies. Why was I optimistic about the 2018 Phillies? Because they, on paper, shouldn't have been that good. And 2 games under 500, they still overachieved. Now, last year, I think I had them at 90 and 72, and we all know that didn't come to fruition at all. Although the first 2 months...
Although, look at how bad we felt they were last year, and they were a 500 team.
They were 81 and 81.
Look at all the things that went wrong last year,
and
they were a 500 team.
That's why I'm like...
Do it. Do it.
I don't know. I mean, the Phillies lover in me wants them to hit 90. Like, that would be absolutely incredible. I just don't know with the Braves, Nationals, and Mets all there. I mean, I'll go on the record and say they're going to be better than the Mets.
Okay.
They're not finishing in fourth, that's for sure. Do I think they can overtake the Braves and the Nationals? No, probably not. Right. I think they can be right there with them.
But I also look, I'm like, everything broke right for both those teams pretty much last year. And they still were, they were right there. But, like, and everything went wrong for the Phillies last year. So I feel like, even if you just have, even if they don't flip, even if it just kind of, like, comes back to, like, normal, right. I feel like you're pretty good.
I'm not going to hit 90.
Okay.
I can't. So I'll go 89. Which, again,
I got prices right, dude.
Like, doesn't guarantee a playoff spot. No. But they should be in contention.
They're going to be competing.
It'll make an interesting September and hopefully October.
And how much more fun is baseball season when, like, August and September and you're like, oh my gosh, like you're hanging on every game.
Well, and that's the sucky thing is they had us going in 18 and last year. Now last year it ended a little sooner, but remember in 2018 it was like up until basically high school football started, and then all of a sudden they were like, collapsed. "Oh, people are going to start to not pay attention to baseball much anymore. We can decide to suck."
Right.
And that's exactly what they were awful from mid-August through September in 2018.
I'd love to see them get off to a blazing start, and keep it going.
I'd rather them be middling at the beginning and ramp up like in 2007 and 2008. Because the way I always look at it is, if you have a great start, you're gonna have a crappy
ending. You remember,
ending.
like someone in their heyday, like a decade ago now, like the one season I was like, I pegged them for like 104 wins or something like that. I'm basically like 2 out of every 3. I wanted them to win 2 out of every 3 games. So to get to 88 wins, I quick check the math here using a calculator. It's only like a 540 and change winning percentage, which means basically every other week, every other 10 game stretch, you're winning 5 out of 10 or 6 out of 10. And when I phrase it like that,
I know.
I'm like, wow, because you just have so many games. You're just basically alternating between 5 out of 10 and 6 out of 10 games. I'm like, they can do that. Like, they can win just over half their games. And that's basically what it works out to, is just over half. So I think, I think they're going to get 88 and whatever it takes, plus the whatever it takes to get that other wild card.
Yeah, I know. When you say it like that, I love when I look at the last 10 or the winning percentage, and I'm just like, that's awful. But then you look at what that produces.
Right.
You're like, I don't want to see 6-4. 6-4 is unacceptable. I want 7-3 or 8-2.
Right, and 6-4
but
is
like,
really
if you
good.
go 8-2 every 10 games over to the 162 game schedule,
oh my gosh,
like you're the best team ever.
Right.
You're the best team ever.
Right.
Like, what would that be? 8-2 every 10 games is
it'll be
128 wins or something like that.
Yeah.
It's in 120 to 130 wins.
Right.
That's what you're
You'd
talking
be
about.
lapping the field.
Yeah. It wouldn't even be close.
You'd win the division by 30
It would be
games.
me playing RBI baseball.
Right.
Like,
You'd win the division.
When I'd lose a game and I would be
you'd have it
so mad.
You'd have the division clinched before school starts in August.
Yeah, you could
not
play
before high school football starts. You'd have the division clinched.
July 31st, and you're like, all right, we're done.
Yeah, we don't have to trade for anybody because we got to
do anything.
It'd be like when NFL teams have it, like when teams clinch on like Thanksgiving, and you're like, all right, December doesn't matter.
Yeah, who cares? It does not matter. So that's going to wrap up our first discussion point with the Phillies. A couple things. So we went over the wins that my dad asked about. He said, look at the Flyers this year, which, spoiler, we're going to get to that shortly. And then he made a comment about our catcher comment. And he said, that's why I was the catcher on the church softball team. I'm the most important player on the field. And that's why we won a couple championships. So this was in the 1930s, stickball era.
Hit that ball of tape. Rag. It's just a bunch of rags tied together.
Kick the can in the outfield. They're Did they even have metal bats back then? I don't think it was.
Did they have
definitely
metal?
all wood. Did metal exist back then? I'm not sure.
The elements.
Real quickly here, let's touch on. Oh my!
I know some more texts are going to come
definitely.
rolling in.
Let's quickly touch on basketball, the NBA. We're bookending things with the Phillies, who are optimistic about, and the Flyers, who are playing phenomenal, and then the Sixers, who I don't want to say are disappointing to me, but they're struggling, unlike we thought they would. Now they have injuries at the moment, but that doesn't make up for the inconsistencies throughout the entire season.
Right, and that's kind of the frustrating part. Like, you want to talk about how, like, the expectations were higher for the Phillies last year, coming out of that year 2 years ago. The expectations for the Sixers were really high. They were like a 4-bounce Kawhi shot and a blown lead earlier in the series away from playing for the right to go to the NBA Finals. Like, they were on a roll last year, and then coming into this year, and just nothing seems to be going right. Injuries with Ben Simmons in his back, who knows what that will lead to. Embiid, I don't think it's as serious, but still out some time. Like, it's not looking good. And the thing is, to be honest, like, I sit here and I still look, I'm like, well, if they could get both those guys back healthy and hit their stride, I don't think they're the best team in the East, but I think they could compete for the East. You know what I mean? Like, if they play at their best, I think they're as good as anybody in the East.
The problem is they don't have any great matchups against some of the teams that they're going to meet in the first round. Because right now they're in 6th in the East. They would have to play...
That's the worst case scenario.
Right. They'd have to play the Celtics in the first round, which honestly might be a better matchup than the Heat or the Pacers. And now the Pacers are probably the best matchup.
Heat are probably not a great matchup for us. But the Celtics, just having to watch them every time and realizing, we traded with them to get the guy who doesn't play for us anymore because he forgot how to shoot, and then they got Jason Tatum, who's going to be their best player for a decade or plus.
Right, we got rid of him. Yeah, that one hurts. That one hurts a lot. And that's who the Sixers would play right now in the first round. Of course, there's 18 games left or something like that?
Right.
18 games left, at least for the Sixers. They played 64 games. They're 38-26. 15 and a half games back of the Bucks.
Right. Now the thing is, they're only
4.5 back of third.
out of the third seed. Right. So, like,
if they can go on a run like their counterpart that shares the
But, like, look at the splits. They're 28-2 at home, 10-24 on the road.
Yeah, they can't win on the road.
28-2. They're the best team in basketball at home. And they're one of the worst on the road.
28
That'll do it.
And 2.
That's
absurd. They can't win on the road whatsoever.
Right.
I mean, they're not beating the Bucks or the Raptors, probably. So, I mean, at best, you're looking at a one round. They make it to the quarters again. Essentially.
Yeah, like, I'm telling you, I gotta wait and see, because while they've been disappointing, like, if they can get healthy and hot, like, going into the playoffs,
you think they can push the Bucks or Raptors to the brink?
I think they can. The
way they're playing right now, there's no way.
Right, but Giannis is the best player in the East, but, like, honestly, and they're the best team, and it's not that close. He's out a little bit now, so I don't know that they're going to get to that 70 wins, but like they're going to be upper 60s
He's out
in
for
wins.
2, yeah.
But, like, I don't know that the Raptors have their identity in terms of what they're going to do come playoff time this year. Because, like, Kyle Lowry, perfect example of a guy I loved as a college player because he was at Villanova, and I can't stand him now because he plays for the Raptors and has gone, runs his mouth a lot. Like, just like, not bad.
It's
just
Toronto basketball, though. Like, I just don't get, like,
right.
I'm not invested in NBA enough or even the 76ers enough to care about the Raptors.
I just look at it. I'm like, I think the Sixers could beat the Pacers. I think the Sixers could beat the Heat, but the Heat are going to be tough because Jimmy Butler's there. The Celtics, I think, are a bad matchup for them. I think the Raptors are tough, but like I think the Sixers could beat the Raptors, and I think the Bucks are a tough matchup because of Giannis. But like I honestly think that the Bucks have the best player, but then I think the Sixers have the next best two players, and then honestly I think it's kind of even for another couple spots. So like I know that sounds crazy because the Bucks are. Like I was talking about, we were talking about lapping the field with 120 some wins in baseball. Like the Bucks are running away with it in the East, but
I mean, they're probably going to go like 68-14.
Right, but like I look at it, the Bucks, the pressure's on the Bucks in the playoffs. I know that sounds ridiculous because the pressure's on everybody, but like the Bucks are the team where like because there's starting to be those rumors where Giannis is looking at how this playoff season goes, the postseason goes. For basically whether or not he's going to stay in Milwaukee when he becomes a free agent. Well, that's a lot of pressure on them. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
So they lost to the worst team in basketball last night without Steph Curry, and now the Sixers were without their two best players too. But like, yeah, I don't know that. I spent a lot of time like defending Brett Brown because I don't think they always. Like he survived. He was through so much in Philly when they gave him nothing. But I feel like it's starting to run its course, and I feel like he either needs to turn it around and get some results this year, or it's probably time to move on.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, wouldn't you believe it? They lost at the Cleveland. They won at home against the Knicks. They lost at the Clippers and lost at the Lakers.
Right.
Now they did manage to beat the Kings.
Right.
On the road. But then they lost to the Warriors on the road.
Worst team in basketball. Which, I'm telling you right now, that is a scary thought. Because, one, the Lakers are really good. The Clippers are really good. The Warriors are one of the worst teams in basketball. So they're most likely going to have a great shot at the number one overall pick. If not
but
one
it's
of
a
the
weak draft.
One of the top three. Yeah, but still. But they're going to get Curry's been out since October.
Right.
And he just came back. They're going to get Klay Thompson back. They'll have Draymond, who, depending on who you have
He's
around
better
him.
than Charles Barkley. So
I saw a thing, and it reminded me of you. It said, imagine...
Trent Dilfer.
Right,
yes.
yeah. Imagine Trent Dilfer saying, Dan Marino,
Dan
you can't
like,
criticize me because you don't have any rings.
A Super Bowl ring.
And I was like, preach. Right. Trent Dilfer's right.
I'm going to punch you. Now, the good thing for the Sixers is that 5 of their next 6 games are at home. So you need to win your home games, apparently, if you want to make any noise.
The bad news is they're right now the 6th seed, which means they're going to be going on the road in the playoffs. So,
but if they can work their way up to the 5 or the 4, you're gonna make things a little bit better for yourself.
Well, and like we said, they're only a few games. So if they could get hot...
Well, and one of them is against the Pacers on Saturday.
Right.
And they need to beat the Pistons and Wizards because, 1, they're at home.
Right.
2, those teams are bad. Pacers are a playoff team, but it's at home. You got to win that. You can show us that you're ready by beating the Raptors a week from Wednesday.
Right.
Then go on the road and beat the Hornets before coming home to play the Hawks,
who are also bad.
Right.
But we never play well, and Trae Young always scores 1,000 points against us.
The Sixers also have a game against the Bucks remaining in early April. That one is at home. Again, another chance to beat one of the best. Show that you can compete with the best team in the NBA on your home floor. So they don't play the Celtics anymore the rest of the way in the regular season. So they get
good.
the Pacers. They don't have the Heat anymore either. So they have the Pacers, the Raptors, the Bucks, and the Magic. But Magic are like very barely into the 8th seed in the East. And again, that's also at home. So really, it's like take care of your business at home and win a few road games, and they could and probably likely will jump up to the 4.
Right. And if they win a few and can hit their stride, I can guarantee you the Bucks don't necessarily want to see them in the second round of the playoffs.
Yeah, Simmons and Embiid healthy and like in a groove.
Right. No.
Yeah. Well, so we'll see about that.
Yeah.
All right. So the last.
We're in a prove it stage right now. Like they need to actually get it done.
Oh yeah, for sure. So we want to spend the last 10 minutes or so on the other sports here with the NHL, which we don't get to talk a lot about hockey. And let's face this, face it, for the better part of the last decade, especially the second half of the last decade, the Flyers have been maddeningly inconsistent.
Right.
They
haven't really given us much to talk about.
Right, they haven't won a playoff series, I think, since 2012, if I remember correctly. They just haven't been very good since the beginning of the 2010s. And they had that epic run as the 7th seed all the way to the Stanley Cup final that was minutes away from going to a Game 7. And that's all we'll say about that. But all of a sudden, the Flyers are quite possibly playing like the best team in all of hockey.
Certainly the hottest team.
Oh, hottest for sure. They've won 9 in a row. They haven't lost since February 15th. There's a very good chance that, and especially if they win, is it the middle of this week or next week? I can't remember now. They get the Bruins and the Lightning.
They play on Tuesday, I think, against the Bruins. But I'm
they
not
could
100% sure.
make it an entire month without losing a game. It's possible because it's already March 8th. A week from now, they've made it a month. Now they have, I think, 3 games this coming week. And this is by division. I was hoping to see it by conference. I guess they don't show it like that. So let's check out the Metro. So there the Flyers are, 68 game played, same amount as the Capitals and Penguins. They are in a virtual tie with the Caps, identical record. I guess goals for is a tiebreaker there. I'm not really sure what it is. I was going to say differential, but their differential is better than the Capitals, so maybe it's goals for. It could be divisional record, which is not listed up here.
Right.
But for all intents and purposes, the Capitals and Flyers are tied. Record. However, the Flyers have been playing much better than the Capitals have been, or the Penguins have been. And as the Athletic writers have been saying, it's not a matter of when, it's a matter of how soon the Flyers overtake the Capitals to lead the Metropolitan Division. Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, the Flyers, they haven't been bad this year.
No.
They were performing, I think, about where people thought. Preseason expectations probably pegged them as one of the wild card teams, not a top 2 team in the division. Probably getting that 7 or 8 seed. They had a new coach, a new system, a young goalie that was finally going to be basically the every night starter. Or the presumed every night starter. There's definitely going to be a timeshare there with Brian Elliott, but Carter Hart has been incredible, especially of late, coming back from the injury in January. He's played phenomenally, and the guys around him
pretty much since he came
up.
back, they've been incredible.
As much as it pained a lot of people at the deadline, for the Flyers to not get any big names and pick up these rental guys, I was celebrating.
Yeah.
Because when you pick up veteran guys like they did, you're adding depth to the team.
It's already paying off.
And experience to the team that those are the ones where you look back and I think about when I was like diehard Flyers may have been my favorite team from the mid 90s to like the early 2010s. Like the Flyers hockey was so huge. I followed every single move, and I was always so excited at the trade deadline of the big-name players the Flyers would get. Well, what has it gotten us?
Right, nothing.
It didn't get the Flyers anything. They
all
gave
it does
up
is
draft picks.
Right, it mortgages your future.
Think about all the guys the Flyers have shipped out. They haven't become big names, but they've won cups.
Right,
I can
because
think about,
they've been key guys on.
Right, I think about Dennis
Seidenberg
Seidenberg and Patrick Sharp, guys that were sent out from the Flyers, and are those huge names? Not in the long run, but they won cups with the Bruins, with the Blackhawks. And the Flyers gave up guys that probably aren't going to turn out into much, and a few mid-round draft picks, which could hit, but who knows, and got these guys back in return that have immediately paid dividends by taking pressure off some of your other guys or stepping up and scoring. Like Derek Grant has been wonderful.
Well, that's the thing. Like, they've made them a more balanced team.
Yeah.
Like, it's not just one or two guys that if they don't score, we're in trouble. It's kind of across the board. You added depth, you added experience. And it seems to have been a positive for the team chemistry too. Like guys for fitting in. It hit a home run. A friend of ours, Corey, is a big Penguins fan, and I saw he was tweeting today. He's like, as far as a team, he's like, the Penguins were a better team before the trade deadline, even though they look different now than they did before the trade deadline. He's like, they're just not getting it done right now, and they're 2-8 over the last 10. Now there's time; they'll turn it around. They will, but like that's the opposite of what happened for the Flyers. Now you don't always know that obviously ahead of time, but like it's been huge that they held their ground, got the pieces they felt could help them without mortgaging the future, and at least in the short term, it has paid off for them. So hopefully it keeps paying off and they can stay on a roll, because being healthy and hot at the end of the season is everything.
Everything.
It is everything.
And they're not even healthy right now because James Van Riemsdyk is out with a broken hand.
You're right.
He's not expected back until maybe the first round of the playoffs, middle first round of the playoffs. Like, he's at a 4 to 6 week time period where he's not making it back for the regular season. But maybe they don't even need him. Maybe he can come back and be fresh for the second round.
Imagine if you get through the first round of the playoffs without him, and then you add him for the second round.
Right.
Oh, and his legs are super fresh now.
Rested and healthy, yeah.
Right. He spends that first series just getting his legs back and conditioning and all that. Well, that's the thing with the hand. You can still condition. You can still all of those things.
He can still skate and everything.
That's huge.
Yeah,
that's
absolutely huge. Yeah, lower body injuries way worse for hockey players than wrist or hand injuries. 4 to 6 weeks heals, he gets back and he can practice every day. He can go through those motions and he can keep his conditioning up. So the Flyers lost to the Lightning February 15th, 5-3. They were in that game against the best team in the Eastern Conference, them and the Bruins. And then they just reeled off 9 in a row, and until last night had scored 4 or more goals in all 8 of those victories. Last night they came up just short. They tried to get an empty net goal to get that 4th goal. They just couldn't do it. But they're also doing this against teams that are either fighting for playoff spots or comfortably in the playoffs. So they beat the Blue Jackets back-to-back times, 5-1 and 4-3. They beat the Jets 4-2. They went out west. Oh, no, sorry. They hosted the Sharks and beat them 4-2. Then they did a home-and-home with the Rangers, beat them both times, 5-2 and 5-3. Then everyone was like, "Oh well, we're rolling now, but we got to play the Capitals, 5-2."
Yep,
taking them out. Then the Hurricanes, again, another team that the Flyers have struggled with, not necessarily in the win column, but in the way the game is played, and they beat them 4-1 this past Thursday, and then yesterday the Flyers beat the Sabres 3-1. But here's the big ones, and it is this coming week. So if the Flyers want to stretch that winning streak to double digits, they're going to earn it because they play the top 2 teams in the Eastern Conference, home against Boston Tuesday, and then in Tampa on Thursday before returning this weekend for games against the Minnesota Wild and the Edmonton Oilers. So
like you look at it, and I obviously want to see the win streak keep going. Like, to win 2 more in a row and get that, beat those top 2 teams would be incredible. To be honest, though, if they could split those and then win their home games, because I think they have 3 in a row at home after that game at the Lightning, you're sitting pretty. And that's the thing. They don't have to win out, but just keep winning at a good rate, keep building momentum. Look good against those top teams. Win at least one of those games. You're going to put yourself in a really good position.
If the Flyers win the Metro, they're the 2 seed.
Right.
You get to play one of the wild card teams. So if the Flyers get to that 2 seed, or excuse me, the 1 seed in the Metro, which would be the 2 seed overall in the East, they would likely play. Let's see. Wow, after Bruins and Lightning, there's Atlantic is not great.
No.
So it's probably going to be, could be Hurricanes, could be Islanders, could be Blue Jackets, could be Rangers, could be Maple Leafs, could be Panthers. Like, all of them are still in there. So it's tough to say who, but it's a good matchup for them with the way they're playing.
Yeah.
They'll definitely be favored. Should they win the Metro and get the 2, they will definitely be favored against that wild card 1, whoever the 7 seed is, essentially.
Yeah.
And then they get to play what will likely be the winner of Capitals Penguins.
Right.
And now,
and like,
they're
that's a
playing
series
better than them.
Right, and that's a series where just traditionally those 2 teams are going to beat the crap out of each other too. So good, great,
well, and that
wonderful.
For years the Capitals were the ones reaping the benefits of the Flyers and the Penguins beating up on each other, or the Penguins were reaping the benefits of the Capitals and whoever. When it wasn't the Flyers. I mean, the last time the Flyers were in the playoffs, I believe it was the Capitals. Flyers playing the Capitals. So, it's looking good. It's looking good for the Orange and Black. This year, through most of the year up until ended early February, I'd say, it was going the way people thought it. They were performing more to their talent level. We were seeing some of the young guys get back on track or progress. The veterans were playing well. Giroux was having a down year.
Yeah.
But the Flyers were challenged for a playoff spot, and we're going to be a tough out. Did we think they're going to win a series? 50-50 maybe. Probably not, though, because you're going to go in as a wild card, and it's tough to beat that 1 or 2 seed. But now...
Yeah. Then the last 2 months happened, and next thing you know...
Not even, like, the last 4...
Yeah.
Not, like, barely 4 weeks happened, and they've just turned it around, and it's really fun. So... it'll be an interesting last month of the season. Hopefully the Flyers
hopefully we have to work them into the show a number of times over the next few months.
So they have 14 games left. Hey, even if they go 9-5, that's 50 wins.
That'll get them the division. Like
you would think. Yeah. I mean, they 18-6 then in their last 24. It's pretty 2/3, right?
Right.
So
that gets you where you need to be.
So they have 14 games left. If they can go 9-5, which is really good, they should be Metro champions. And that would probably get them like somewhere between 105 and 108 points, depending on how the overtime stuff works out.
Excellent.
That's great.
Yeah, if you can get to 100 points, you're looking.
And
really
they
good.
would probably still be one of, if not the hottest team entering the playoffs.
Right, exactly. So that's a good sign.
Yeah, absolutely awesome. And we didn't even really mention too many of the players, but what Konechny has been able to do this year, he was an all-star, the Flyers' only all-star, by as a matter of fact. But and this is all doing it without some guys that were expected to be huge players this year, and it's absolutely terrible and awful what Oscar Lindblom is going through right now, but the team has rallied behind him. The NHL community has rallied behind Oscar, which is great.
Has been cool to see. Obviously an unfortunate situation,
but maybe finally Sean Couturier will get the notice for the Selk Trophy, which he's deserved probably 2 of the last 3 years. I'm not even sure he's having his best year this year, but maybe he'll finally win that designation. But the offseason acquisitions have worked out beautifully. Kevin Hayes, Matt Niskanen.
Kevin Hayes has been
He's been great. Yeah, he's been absolutely great. But hey, when you know the coach, like when you're familiar with the way the coach works, and sometimes that's all you need.
You know what? And I was all for the coaching change before this one. Well, essentially, when they hired the college coach, and because they were in a rut, they needed something different, and it didn't work. Mm-hmm. Okay, but I give them credit for not doing the same thing over and over again that wasn't working. They were just cycling through assistants, and it wasn't working, and then they were able to they changed the pace, and you know what? That didn't work. But at least they knew then. And once they knew that, then they went and were able to go and try to kind of reset. And now I feel like they got it right. It looks like they got it right. It feels like they got it right. So.
All right, so that wraps up the other sports, talking baseball, basketball, and hockey. And like Justin said, I hope we get to talk about those teams in the coming months. I'm sure we'll talk about the Phillies. We'll probably talk about them again before the season starts. I hope to talk about the Sixers.
Right,
and I definitely expect to talk about the Flyers.
Right.
And if we're talking about them, that's good. That's good.
If we're
for
not,
everyone involved.
You know how it went.
Yeah. But let's the last 5 minutes here. Let's touch on a little bit of football, only because it has to do with logo, which is something that I'm always interested in, design. And this came out just like 3 or 4 hours ago. I guess there was a leak recently on Reddit with this design. Yeah. And if you haven't seen this before, I'm talking specifically to my dad because I doubt he's seen this before. I would like you to text me or message us and let us know what team you think that is describing. Before we say it, Dad, if you're still listening after we made fun of you, what team do you think? To be fair,
if he's been listening for 9 years, I don't know why he'd stop now.
Well, right, we make fun of him, especially you, every episode. So, mostly making fun of him for not listening to us last week, and I could tell because my phone wasn't dinging. So there's a logo up for a Los Angeles professional football team, and I'd like you to tell us what team you think that is describing. Is it describing the Chargers or the Rams? So, I'm not sure. Oh, he sent us a few emojis before. I didn't notice this. So.
I see that.
This is a family-friendly show, so I won't repeat what the emojis are. Okay, he has submitted his guess. He's also said it was time to take a nap after we made fun of him. Okay, he says that hat is for the redesign of the Los Angeles Chargers. And to that, Justin and I have to say, you are incorrect. That is a hat for the Los Angeles Rams. Yes, the Los Angeles Rams. That is their new logo. And he said Chargers, and he is absolutely correct in thinking that could be a Chargers hat.
Right. Yeah. He is not correct in assigning the correct team. He is correct in interpreting it that should be a Chargers logo, not a Rams logo. And the Rams have such a cool possibility with the Rams stuff. Like, there's so many ways you could go with that.
I don't understand how that's the best you can come up with.
And we've talked a lot about the Rams uniforms on the show over the years because they have some iconic ones and some that, like, we've talked about a lot. You know this, not every team, but there are teams that can pull it off, and I really like it. I love the Rams all white with the blue ram horns on the helmet.
Yeah.
That is awful.
Oh, that's not good. So people are not taking too kindly to this new LA Rams logo, and like, I'm with them. I said this to you. How do billion-dollar companies hire million-dollar corporations? And this is the best they can come up with. I just don't understand
Stan Kroenke? Is he the owner or something
Kroenke,
like that? Yeah. So I feel like this is something where, like, somebody showed it to him and he liked it, and so that's what it's going to be, even though no one else. Now, obviously, I don't think that's actually how it happened, but, like, in my head, that's how it worked. Like, he's like, hey, I think it should be this, and everyone's like, and he's like, no, this is going to be it, and they're like, like, ooh.
So that was a tweet from Charles Robinson. Again, the photo came from Reddit. And there's also this on the side. Time to Shine, which you mentioned could perfect for the Chargers.
Right.
You know, they talk about lightning,
right,
charging, shining, LA Chargers. So they should just call the Chargers and be like, hey, look, we spent millions on this, but we'll give it to you for $100,000.
Maybe that's what it is. Maybe they're like, look, the Chargers are kind of an embarrassment. We don't want to have to share the stadium with them in their current state. We're going to, like, really help them ramp things up a little bit. Maybe that's what it is. Because otherwise,
yeah, it's not good at all. I'm not even. It's tough. It's also, it's a fuzzy picture, so the colors are tough to grab. It's not like they have the Pantones, the numbers out there for us. So until this is officially debuted, probably about a month from now, because all of this is coming out in April, closer to the schedule and draft. Like, all that's happening in April, so this is at least a month ahead of time. So until we see more, and you know what, maybe it'll look cool, whatever they put on the helmet. Maybe that's a secondary logo. Like, maybe that's not the main logo.
Right. And to be honest, like, you go into any, like, shop and you see the hats, and there are a million hats with variations of logos and different things. And, like, I don't always like them. You know what I mean? Like, there's some that I like, even for the teams that I like and have logos that I like. Sometimes there are versions of logos or adaptations of logos that I don't care for. And that could very well be what this is.
And I guess I should say, it's not that I hate the logo. It's that I hate that it confuses people.
Right.
Because
if you can't tell, it's not a good logo.
Right, exactly.
Right. So, like, and that's kind of how I feel, well, about lots of things. Like, if you can't tell, and if you're $1 billion, especially, you made the point, like, multi-billion-dollar corporations here, but also, you're competing, like, in theory, you're competing as one of 2 professional teams in the city, right? Like,
just football.
Right, just football. Like, you should, like, in LA, you see purple and gold. It doesn't even have to be a logo. If you see purple and gold, you know Lakers, right? You see, like, iconic blue and white and, like, cursive letters, like, you think Dodgers. You know, like, there are iconic things in LA. And this, you see that, and you're like, oh, the Chargers' new logo? No, it's the Rams. Like, it doesn't make sense to me.
No, it doesn't make sense. I just noticed off on the side of my trending on Twitter was Beaver Stadium, and I was like, why is Beaver Stadium trending? Well, apparently NHL on NBC tweeted out, Dream Winter Classic location. Where do you want to see the big game?
Oh my gosh.
And Beaver Stadium is one of the options.
NHL.
Hey, so they're moving towards using Beaver Stadium for more than just football a few times a year.
But it's still a few years away because my understanding is it will not happen until
these negotiations start how many years in advance.
Right. And
I mean, they just announced next year's Winter
if
Classic.
you want from the Penn, we almost made it a show. If you're looking at it from the Penn State side of things, they released, general plans, a couple years ago now in terms of like a 10-year plan, basically, or whatever.
Which we're halfway through.
Right. So, like, if you're looking to really ramp up the renovations or modifications or whatever you want to call them, like having a plan and being like, look, we can host things like this, then that's
I'm
all
going to
part
a
of
Flyers Penguins game at Beaver Stadium. Like that's not even an option. You're gonna
Are you sure?
let Corey know.
Are you sure? Like Beaver
is it?
Like
Corey's a huge Flyers fan, right?
No, he's a huge Penguins fan.
That's right. He's a huge Penguins fan. That's right.
He's a Penguins fan, Yankees fan.
That's right. Yeah.
Penn State fan. He got it right there.
I mean, that's,
but right. Here's the thing. Like, and I wouldn't be opposed to it because if it happens, it happens. But like, do you not have the Sabres there because the Pagulas donated so much money to Penn
guess
State?
If it makes it, but then which teams you pick?
The Flyers. You bring the Flyers.
But why?
Because I like the Flyers.
Well, true. Yeah.
No, but I understand.
See, I think for the inaugural Beaver Stadium.
You've got to do
for a
Flyer
Beaver Stadium
Penguins.
Winter Classic. It's got to be Flyer Penguins. For a stadium series, it could be Sabres Penguins or Sabres Flyers.
Right. You can have Sabres anybody. If the Flyers and Penguins are right.
I feel like
absolutely.
Hey, make it Sabres Capitals and have them meet like halfway.
That'd be cool.
That'd
be cool. But man, Flyers Penguins at Beaver Stadium.
How? Do you think would it sell out? Would they sell 100,000, 105,000 tickets for that?
Yes.
You think they would?
Yep. Yeah.
It would be awesome. They
would sell out. They'd put 110,000 in that stadium that day.
That would be a weekend. That would be a weekend event.
Yeah.
Would it be on New Year's Day? If it's the Winter Classic, I guess
Probably.
It would be.
Probably.
Can you imagine Beaver Stadium hosting Flyers Penguins January 1st, but then they move the game up because Penn State's playing in the Rose Bowl later?
Oh my gosh. Which is a semifinal for the national championship.
Oh, man.
All right.
It's time for bed.
Things that need to happen.
Yeah, it's... All right, well, we didn't talk much football, but we managed to talk about everything.
But we made fun of the Rams, so it was a good night.
We made fun of Los Angeles football, which is always good. We talked about Penn State and Beaver Stadium, and we touched on the Phillies, Sixers, and Flyers. So,
real quick, what would be your second choice of those?
Lambeau. I think Central Park is awesome. But
I think Central Park. I don't know, but that's why I wanted to happen.
I'm not into racing, so Bristol doesn't entertain me that much.
Right.
I don't.
They played the football game there. They played the Tennessee game there a couple years ago. Tennessee, Virginia Tech, I think, played there.
I don't. Michie Stadium. I don't.
Is that Army?
I'm not sure.
If it is, that would be cool. At one of the military academies.
Yeah, one of the military academies would be cool. But I mean that those choices, I'm going Beaver, Lambeau, and Central Park if they can figure out how to pull it off.
Right.
I feel like that's a logistical night. Like you think Beaver Stadium's a nightmare? Imagine Central Park. Where are you putting people?
I don't know.
I've skated in Central Park. I have no idea how. They play at Central Park, but no one watches. They just play the game and they broadcast it, but no one's there. So yeah, I'm not really sure how that one would work out. But definitely Beaver Stadium followed by Lambeau, and then there's I'm sure a few other out there that would be interesting. But
Beaver Stadium also has the best picture of the five up there.
Yeah, of those five, Beaver Stadium by far.
100%.
By far, yeah. I'm trying to see what people responded if they all. Penn's Flyers Beaver Stadium now. A lot of people saying Ohio. Oh, go away, James Laurinaitis. Ohio Stadium for what? Blue Jackets? I know, and someone said, "Oh, just what people want to see: the Penguins or Flyers in another outdoor game." Yeah, you know why they keep putting them in outdoor games?
Because people watch it, people buy tickets.
Actually, Blue Jackets Red Wings in the shoe would be epic. No, it wouldn't. Who cares? Detroit's awful right now. They're one of the greatest hockey teams ever. They've been awful for a while.
Right.
And it's the Blue Jackets. Does anyone outside of Columbus care about the Blue Jackets?
It would be cool in a sense to have Michigan, Ohio State play, like if they did something at the Big House and then at Ohio Stadium, like that could be cool.
Michigan, Ohio State is more interesting to me than Columbus,
that's
Detroit.
the problem. That's the problem. The college game would steal the show.
Yeah. So, all right. Any shout outs for anyone to mention?
No.
Happy belated birthday to my Uncle Dennis. He's celebrating.
I saw him.
There's a ton of March birthdays, and there are some coming up, I'm sure, in the weeks to come, and we will mention. It was Denali's birthday just a few days ago. It was my Aunt Joyce's birthday. It's coming up. Jason's birthday is coming up. It's just so many.
Isn't
in
everybody's
March,
birthday coming up?
April. I'm going to hit you. Please remember to like and share and follow and subscribe and leave a review if you listen to us on iTunes or Google Play or anywhere that has reviews. Please, rate us, review us. Positive and good would be great. That would help spread the word and get more people to listen to the show. And if you watch us, we appreciate it on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. You can like us, follow us, comment, all that good stuff on there. We will be back next week, which will be actually next week's March Madness Selection Sunday.
Oh, yeah.
So we get to talk. I mean, I don't know that we're going to be doing much because the brackets don't usually come out until we're talking. But we will be doing a bracket challenge, which I've already had multiple people ask me about.
Yeah, I had people asking me too. Asking me this weekend,
I think I'd like to get, let's say, 64 brackets, because that's how many, after the playing games are over, that's how many teams are in the field. So I want 64 brackets. You can enter up to 3 each person. And I do that because I do one for me, one for Natalie, and then I do a control. So that allows everyone to do 3. So if you really want to try to win that badly, you can enter 3 brackets into our ESPN Tournament Challenge. That will be released about a week from now as soon as the field is unveiled. It'll be a lot of fun, and the winner gets a show t-shirt and the opportunity to appear on an episode. And I know there are definitely people that are trying to get that similar to the way Corinne wanted to get on the show. So let's just hope that they don't win.
I was going to say, let's just hope our sisters don't win. So.
Sisters, their friends, anyone acquainted with them, anything like that. All right, so I think that's everything. So thanks for listening to this episode of the Joe Mays and J-Raff Show. This was 298, 299 next week, 300 on the horizon, and we got some fun things coming up. So thanks for joining us, and we'll see you again real soon.
That's a wrap on this episode of the Joe Mays and J-Raff Show, brought to you by Mays Sandwich Shop. Woo-hoo! You can watch each weekly episode live on Facebook, Periscope, or YouTube. Be sure to like, follow, or subscribe to the show on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, and Google Play. You can also rate and review us on many of these platforms as well. We'd love to hear from you. Send your emails to the Mays Sandwich Shop inbox at joemaysandjraff@gmail.com. The Joe Mays and J-Raff Show is a part of the JMNJR Radio Network, home to other productions such as the Bulldog Hour, Tangents with Friends, and Nat Chats with Dad. Until next time.